Hello and welcome back! So Rolex decided to shut down the Carl F. Bucherer brand just 2 years after acquiring it. Actually, it hasn't even been the full 2 years. I am sure a lot of you seen or heard the news. Now, on one hand, it might sound somewhat sad, and not just for the fans of the brand. I think the impact might be a bit deeper. And there are even speculations that Rolex did it to safeguard the Tudor. Well, however, I think on the other hand it is potentially a very exciting news for Rolex and Rolex fans. So let's unpack it. First, allow me a few seconds just to get you up to speed in terms of what actually happened. So, Rolex made headlines in 2023 when they acquired Bucherer AG, the world's largest retailer of Rolex watches. As part of the deal, Rolex also acquired Carl F. Bucherer watch brand, which had a rich history dating back all the way to 1888. Yes, one of the oldest brands with more than 135 years of history. There were a lot of YouTube videos commenting on this deal at the time, however, mostly were focusing on the part of the deal that involved Bucherer brick-and-mortar retail outlets around the world. And I remember a lot of commentators, quite naively I should say, were stating how Rolex will be now raking in all those huge profits from Bucherer retail sales of other brands like Omega. Sorry, but that's not how the business works. Those profits will go exactly where they went for years before Rolex bought the chain, to pay for Bucherer retail shop salaries and expenses, which is kind of the same thing. However, it looks like Rolex is managing that part of acquisition quite well so far. Moreover, I believe they're even further expanding their presence into China, still one of the strongest retail markets in the world. So this part of the deal seems to be working for Rolex, so far at least. Now, it is the second part that isn't shaping up too well, and it is the Carl Bucherer watch manufacturing brand. The main reason for shutting down the brand, according to various sources, is the brand's profitability, or lack thereof. Well, personally, I'm surprised that it took Rolex 2 years to find out that the brand profits were not that stellar. I'm sure prior to the initial acquisition, Rolex lawyers and accountants did do a very thorough due diligence, so a poor profitability should be hardly a surprise, unless this was a calculated move. Well, we might never know. However, shifting aside the emotional aspect of putting to sleep one of the oldest watch brands, as I pointed out earlier, getting rid of this non-profitable brand could be a very profitable move for Rolex, and in more ways than catches the eye. So first, let's look at the money side of things. Carl Bucherer sales were about 25,000 watches per year, with prices between 5,000 and 30,000 Swiss francs per watch. By the way, I will link all the sources I used in this video in the description for your reference. So even if we pick a conservative average of about 9,000 Swiss francs per sale, which is approximately 10,000 US dollars, we will get a nifty amount of about $250 million, or $250 million in sales. And taking into account that, according to some reports, most customers who purchased Carl Bucherer also bought Rolex watches, well, there is a strong possibility that this customer will rather spend this cash that they were planning to spend on a Bucherer on Rolex watches. As a matter of fact, there is even a speculation that some customers bought Carl Bucherer timepieces only with the sole purpose of getting on the good side with Rolex ADs and to get their desired submariners and Daytonas much quicker. So, long story short, there is a very strong possibility that this estimated $250 million in revenue that I mentioned just now will end up with Rolex. And you don't need a degree in finance to appreciate that it is much better to make $250 million in sales of Rolex watches and collect that nice juicy profit margin than to make the same amount in sales and get sweet nothing in return in terms of the profit. So from money perspective, a really big win for Rolex. And that's not to mention that Rolex market share, which is based on 2023 numbers, is already about 30.3% with 1.24 million watches produced and sold annually, so with additional 25,000 watches, it will grow Rolex market share by about 1.5 to 2%. And if you think that it is not a lot, well, for comparison, Breitling market share is only 2.5%. So it looks like Rolex has a clear opportunity to sell about 25,000 extra watches without much additional marketing effort. Great news, I know. However, the question is, of course, where those extra watches will come from. Well, if you've been following Rolex news, you probably already know the answer. Rolex is building a 100,000 square meter factory in Bull. However, in the meantime, to speed up its manufacturing capacity, Rolex has built 3 temporary factories in Romont and Villers-Saint-Pierre. These new temporary sites will have between 250 and 300 Rolex employees, and here is where 100 of highly experienced employees from Karl F. Bucherer factory will be very handy addition to the Rolex workforce. So another very big win for Rolex. Okay, possibly some of those employees will be seriously overqualified for assembly line of three-hander Submariners and Explorers, taking into account that Karl F. Bucherer watches complications kinda start where Rolexes end. I'm talking about peripheral rotor movements, perpetual calendars and tourbillons, the horological wonderland that Rolex can only dream of. So possibly some of those employees will be headhunted by higher-end watch brands, still getting nearly 100 trained and experienced watchmakers without spending a dime on training or recruitment is another really big win for Rolex. Now, I've seen some comments that Rolex did it to safeguard the Tudor and they didn't want to cannibalize Tudor sales for the sake of keeping Karl F. Bucherer brand alive. Well, I seriously doubt that, because there is pretty much no overlap between the watches offered by the two brands. It is very unlikely that someone who have been looking to purchase 3000 Black Bay Diver all of a sudden change his mind and buy 30,000 perpetual calendar dress watch. So, in my opinion, as brands, Rolex, Tudor and Karl F. Bucherer could have easily coexisted. So while this is a tough blow for Karl F. Bucherer fans, I think it is a very clever and potentially very beneficial strategic move for Rolex to streamline its operation, increase its revenue and position the company for the long-term success. What do you think about this move by Rolex? Do let us know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, don't forget to like and of course subscribe if you haven't already done so. Tell me what you think about this new setup and of course stay tuned for more news and reviews. Thank you for watching, take care and I will see you in the next video.